it's all fun and games until you're not making money, especially given where I'm at and the ways that I want to help out. I just want to make sure people are making money. It's like, especially like growing up and my first couple of jobs working in the field, working as a laborer, I just figured the boss was just loaded because he has this big company, he has all this equipment, he drives this nice late model truck. Like all of that can be true at the same time that he could be totally broke,
Yep.
or going broke. And in many cases, he didn't even know it. You talk about recruiting and keeping amazing talent. It's not just about like, well, you got to overpay, falsely inflate what people are supposed to be making. It's not just a bunch of high in the sky, kind of ethereal, feel good stuff. You got to make money. You got to make money in order for you to keep playing the game.
Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers. My name is Scott Pieper. I'm the founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding, and I am excited to bring back a repeat guest, a great friend of mine, someone who you guys are very familiar with. Anyone who's been in and around the dirt world or LinkedIn or connected to me, you're going to be familiar with Benjamin Holmgren. Benjamin has now opened his own construction consulting company named Kestaa, which I think has a really cool name and definition, and I'm going to let him explain that to you in a minute. And I want to read Ben's bio because to me, I think this is something that is reflective, and I want to make sure before I introduce him, you all know who he is. Benjamin Holmgren has spent his career in construction, working his way up from a laborer to a leader. These days, he helps forward-thinking contractors who are making some money and hungry to grow, but don't really know where or how much money they're making on projects, which makes bidding the next job a bit of a shot in the dark. He helps them track job costs, create estimating system, and sell more of the right money-making projects. When he's not working, he's hanging out with his wife and kids, running or grabbing a coffee with good people in the construction industry. Ben is a true friend and is back on the Construction MF'ers today, and I'm excited to have him on the show. Benjamin Holmgren, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing better than I deserve. I appreciate
Dude,
the kind intro.
I am I very rarely read off the bio of an intro, and I also don't memorize it. I try to do my own summary, but I thought for you, it is really important to just list that out because it really embraces who you are, who I've known you to be. I think we met back in, gosh, man, probably early 2020, maybe. I mean,
Maybe?
you were
Yep.
probably one of the first people I met or interacted with on LinkedIn when I sort of made my appearance on LinkedIn, which is early January 2020. And since then, man, developed a great relationship working back and forth with you in just different capacities. And I'm just really glad to be able to get you on the show here talking about something that you're excited about, a new venture for you, because I know that it can help so many construction contractors. I've had so many clients, people in our network ask for someone or somebody, or even me sometimes to do what you're setting out to do. And I'm so excited now to be able to refer them directly to you.
Well, it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Tell me what Kestaa is and what you've started and why and what you're about to do.
So so the word Kesta, uh, I don't want to obsess about this, but the reason I picked that name, it's a Finnish word, and if you Google it or somebody who speaks Finnish, it essentially means long term. And one of the things that I have come to appreciate even more uh, is building a construction company for the long term. And many times we get stuck on what did we do this month? What did we do this quarter? How did 2023 look for you? And I just think people should expand the time horizon a bit and start looking at 5 and 10 year increments and start building systems according to that. Start treating people like they're going to be around in 5 and 10 years, and take that longer term view. It's the infinite game, and so that's sort of a nod toward that, and it's right in my name.
Well,
Uh,
I love the name, and I think you're right. The philosophical nature of the word, it braces you. I mean, you've been so instrumental to the construction industry, particularly in our network I've seen. I mean, obviously the construction industry is huge, and the world that you and I know network happens to be similar and overlapping, but it's not the entire industry. But I think at least what I've witnessed, I've seen so much of a powerful force in of positivity in what you do, how you've done it through the platforms you had. But and it's really why it's that dedication is to why we at MF have cherished our relationship so much and what we've been able to accomplish with you. But you've had some life-changing experiences recently that have helped really guide your next level in this journey. Maybe talk about those a little bit and why and how those inspired you to kickstart this new venture.
so a lot of people know me from my work at BuildWit. I worked at BuildWit for almost 3 years and was very much a part of what they were doing and continue to be a huge fan. In end of October of last year, we had a big event. You guys were there, Scott, and 800 other people were there, and we had kind of spent the whole year building toward this event. We hosted the event, the Dirt World Summit, hosted the event, and then away I went. We flew home that night. The next day, we went to a wedding, and then my wife and I on Sunday we went down to St. George, Utah, and we were a day into our trip, and I woke up 6:30 in the morning. We were going to go hiking, and I woke up and I like couldn't see straight. It was like everything was all jacked up, and I like tried to stand up and I couldn't really stand up, and tried to take a shower and was like, double-handed trying to figure out what was up. I tried to Google some stuff like what's wrong with me, and it was just like 50 characters of nothing. And I'm like, okay, I think we got a problem. So I went to the hospital, and an hour later, sitting in the ER, I'm like kind of going in and out, sleeping and waking up, and they come in and they're like, you had a stroke. You're 29, you run every day, you had a stroke. So we got some homework to do. Long story short, I spent most of the day in MRI machines and stuff, getting my head checked out, and essentially to keep it short, I have a hole that goes through the top two chambers of my heart. A blood clot got through that hole and went up to my brain instead of out through my lungs or whatever, and started melting my brain. So bunch of stuff that like I'm still going to the doctor all the time and stuff to get things squared away. They think they have a surgery that they can do in the next couple months that'll get it sealed up, and I should be good to go. The point of the story is that was like kind of a wake up call, and as you might imagine, and then we flew home. 10 days after that happened, my wife she goes into the hospital to kind of get checked out because some stuff was up with her pregnancy. She was just kind of not feeling that great and whatever. So like, yeah, we'll go get checked out. Well, it turns out at 23 weeks, baby was trying to come. And so we got admitted to the hospital. Lights and sirens took us down to a different hospital, and we ended up spending almost a month there before our baby came at 26 weeks, which is pretty young for a baby. It's like 14 weeks before they're supposed to
Yeah.
arrive. And so I've spent the last kind of 2.5, 3 months in hospitals, and uh, very much like high tension stuff, like a lot of stuff all at once. And it's really, you get a couple months staring at a wall in a hospital, and it makes you rethink a lot of what you're doing. And in my case, it really made me think about what do I actually really want to be doing. And it's so trite. It's so just basic. Life is like 10 seconds long. And so if I'm gonna do something, I better get busy. And so that's really the catalyst for why I decided to go on my own. And thankfully, baby's doing pretty well. Maybe in the next month or so, she'll be home, and we'll be off and rolling. But that's
And she's She's
That's right.
beautiful too. I've loved the way that you and your wife decided to recount the story, and or in real time too.
Mm.
It's encouraging. I thought it was enlightening. At the same time, you feel the sense of sadness, but you also feel the sense of joy and excitement. And I think just the way you've documented that has been really cool to follow along and see the outcome too. It's remarkable, especially since the beginning when I mean, you don't know, you never know.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's right.
I can't wait to watch you watch and video taking her home. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to take the video.
Yeah, watching her get closer to home was cool too. It was even that was a cool experience to be like, to let her travel and get closer to
Mhm.
home is a great sign. Like they're not going to do that with it. It's just
Yep.
without it being right. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We're beyond thankful.
Well, there's a lot going on in the construction industry, and you've been front and center of that. We've certainly been front and center of that. We're well aware of the problems, well aware of the things the construction industry is trying to come about. And I think you getting into this now in this realm of consulting to help companies, one of the biggest problems is recruiting and growing the talent that's existing in the construction industry, but also bringing and attracting more talent to it. So in your new business, as you're partnering with some of these companies, how are you going to go about helping them do exactly that?
So my kind of philosophy around this is that it's all fun and games until you're not making money. And so especially given where I'm at and the ways that I want to help out, I just want to make sure people are making money. And it seems like, especially like growing up and my first couple of jobs working in the field, working as a laborer, like I just figured the boss was just loaded because he has this big company, he has all this equipment, he drives this nice late model truck. But him, like all of that can be true at the same time that he could be totally broke,
Yeah.
or going broke. And in many cases, he didn't even know it. And so, uh, I, you talk about recruiting and keeping amazing talent. Uh, it's not just about like, well, you got to overpay and falsely inflate what people are supposed to be making. But it's not just a bunch of pie in the sky kind of ethereal, feel good stuff. You got to make money. You got to make money in order for you to keep playing the game.
Yeah.
And what I have learned is uh, is if companies are making more money and they're making a profit on the job that they're doing, like things just go better. Like there's way less tension, there's way less stress, and things are better for them. And
Oh
so
yeah.
for me, as I'm looking at how do I help companies, that's like the low hanging fruit. It's like, okay, maybe at the end of the year because your CPA sends you back some stuff and shows you, here's your P&L and it seems like you made some money this year, and you're like, well, where is it? I'd love to I'd love to see it.
Or
Uh,
worse, you got to take some out to pay taxes that you never got.
exactly, exactly. So my mission is how do I help contractors that are $1 to $5 million, help them get to kind of the next level of understanding and ramp up their kind of their knowledge and their understanding of their finances so that they can run better projects and keep it they can have more fun doing it. It's like you want to recruit great people, you want to keep great people, make money.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point that I would summarize in a lesson that I actually just learned from two of my mentors. Maybe it was either last month or the month before. And as you and I have talked about before, and maybe some others listen to this know, is like Ed Milet and Andy Frisella are two mentors of mine. And I can't thank them enough for some of the things I've learned, implemented, and people that are even watching this now can even see or hear. But one of the things they were talking about for a long time is culture in a company. And what you just touched on is one of the key pieces of culture that no one really talks about a lot. And it's way more than just putting fancy words on a wall or talking about your core values. But one of the key features is you have to win. Like winning is an important part of culture because it doesn't matter how great your team is. It doesn't matter how cool everyone is. It doesn't matter if you give all the days off, the better vacation time. It doesn't matter what you do. Put foosball tables, and I'm paraphrasing even Andy or Ed at this moment, but they say nobody wants to be around a fucking losing team. Period. Like, and it's true. And like, you ultimately you can be losing and create a culture that starts to win, but you cannot continuously lose and lose and lose and be in a high stress environment, but yet have all the best benefits and try to pay out the most. Even in those situations, people are not going to have fun 8 hours a day losing or more. And so you have to win. And so building a strategy to win, which encompasses all the things you just talked about, is so critical to having a great business. That's why the old phrase of you have to either grow or die. There's no in between. You're either growing your business or your business is shrinking, because people on your team have to win. And if you're winning, you're obviously going to grow. And if you're not, you're going to shrink, and nobody wants to be around. And so I think it's a piece that you have to talk about winning as part of your culture now, because inherently, whether people want to admit it or not, or whether winning is the most important thing to them or not, and some people it's not, but being around losing continuously is definitely not something people want to do. And so the antithesis of that is to win. And as a leader in a construction business or any business, you have to focus on that. And I think you bringing home what you just talked about is the catalyst to helping someone win. And when you're winning, a lot of things can start to open up. Like, it's way easier to give benefits, way easier to pay people more. It's way easier to do all the cool things that people want to do. And so I think touching on that was really cool. But as you were talking about it, it made me think, you know what? He's talking about winning, 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 winning. You have to win.
And it's like you have to win the money game.
Yeah.
Like if you're running a company and you're running projects, you're bidding projects, and then execute the project, and then what happens? Like, no one reviews, no one's looking back, no one's saying, did this work? Did this not work? I was with a contractor the other day who consistently wins, and they do every single project, whether it's a 3-day project or a 3-month project. Every project gets a kind of a review, gets the whole team together that was on that project and involved, and they review the project and what went well, what did we learn, what didn't go well, what do we need to know for next time. It's very simple, couple slides they go through, and they talk about every job. And it's like, that's a culture piece. That's how, how you get people involved and stuff. But it's also, it ensures that not only do you win now, but you're taking those lessons along with you. And time and time and time again, I've seen people go, but they don't take what Ray Dalio calls pain plus reflection equals progress. It's like they just take the pain. It's like, it just hurts. But maybe if we do one more project, or maybe this next job, it'll be a little better. It's like the reflection or the looking back is it's not just messing with your neck. It's like looking back is very helpful for where you're trying to go, So I suppose that's a tool that people can take and start using right away. It's like,
Well, you're right, because pain and perseverance with reflection will lead to new success. But pain with perseverance and no reflection often just leads to more pain and perseverance. and it's a great trait to have, perseverance, but it would be nice to take the lessons you learn and apply them so you don't have to deal with the same pain, because it won't get easier necessarily. You still have problems that you have to persevere through, but they're not always the same problems. It's like graduate to the next set of problems and the next set of problems. And along the way, those new sets of problems come with different levels of success that mirror up to them as well, and you become conditioned and you become conditioned, and you gain attributes and skills that are new, that when you look back at the problems you're dealing with now, they're not the same problems. And there's different levels of success that correlate to them too. It's not like you just avoid problems, they're there at every stage.
Yep. But you want to graduate. I like that. You want to graduate or level up to the next set of issues.
Yeah. Like, if I'm dealing with a problem, I want to know, is it the same kind of problem? or is it a new one? If I'm dealing with new sets of problems, you sort of you kind of gamify the game itself and say, oh,
Mhm.
cool, I must be around the bases again. I'm starting to see some new problems, you know. And
That's right.
sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. But you also become equipped to reach into your toolbox of experience, and you find new ways to fix problems easier, or sometimes you even anticipate them and say, oh, whoa, let me fix this. This is going to lead to a problem. I mean, these are things that do happen through perseverance, but it's the reflection that you touched on is so key to make sure you can do that moving forward.
Totally
So
agree.
you've been around a ton of construction companies and seen lots of the ins and outs, why some businesses are more successful than others and why some are not. What do you think are some of the key things that lead to what you've seen a business be successful in the main areas that they need to be, and ones that yet around a long time also, but just never find that success or just continually grinding? What do you think some of the key differences are that you've seen?
There's a few things that immediately come to mind. Uh, and one is closely related to what we were just talking about. The companies that do well that I've seen in my travels ripping around, companies that do well know that they're doing well. This was something that at 18 years old, working on a crew, it was like we our little company was the same as every other little company starting out. We just went to work, and then we went home at the end of the day, or like at night, in the middle of the night sometimes. Like when the work was done, we went home, and it was never really clear whether or not we were crushing it or we were sucking. The boss never really made that clear, and I think it was because he didn't know. It was like, hopefully at the end of the year we made some money. And so one of the things that I have seen again and again with companies that do things well is that they track what they're doing and then they review what they're doing. Like they have a way to digest that information. So it's one thing to take the information in it. There's another way or another thing to digest it and turn it into something that's useful, that informs, that teaches, that gives leaders what they need to pass good news uh, or bad news to people on their teams. So to be like it's related to what we were just talking about, but like people who track things and reflect just tend to do way better because it's like they're not redlining when they don't need to be, but they're also not lazy and lackadaisical and everything's just hitting the fan, you know? They're not out spending money and buying new gear when they shouldn't be. So just tracking
Is there
stuff.
one thing that when you walked into a business or you were talking to one of the business owners, and to give people perspective that may not know Ben, Ben not only worked in construction companies and been around construction companies, but in the last 3 years, Ben's been around many construction companies with great leadership and all different sizes, from companies that are many millions and tens of millions of dollars, even hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, down to a brand new company that may not even be over 1 million. And so there's probably 500 to 1,000 business owners in an industry that Ben's communicated with and talked to and known very well in depth. So when I'm asking this question to you, I just want the audience to understand the depth of perspective that you have and why. And that's critical. And so is there one or two traits? And I was going to ask you a question, like, is there, on the flip side, is there one or two things that you see that you just know is going to lead to failure? But I guess the way I'll ask the question is there one or two traits that when you walked in or when you met a business owner and you were talking, you could just tell that company's clicking? Like if you could talk to them for 30 minutes and then they handed you their financials, you'd be like, 99%, this is going to be positive. Hand you their financials, 99%, this is not going to be positive. Is there a couple traits there that you could hone in on that?
Yes, but probably not without making some people who are watching or listening get a little frustrated, or maybe hopefully it'll help some little self-reflection here. The ones who are dialed in and who know they're dialed in, they have time. It's the craziest thing. They have time. And I believe it's because they have people in place to handle some of these issues. Their financials aren't in shambles, so they can breathe a little easier. And so the trait you're asking about, the trait, like if I go into a company, it's that they have time and they're more mellow. Like they're more chill. The ones that don't, it's obvious in the first 2 minutes because they're ripping their hair out, like figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
They're crazy. They don't have time. They struggle to answer the phone. They struggle to get back. You have to call them again and again. You get on site with them. They're running around. They're talking to their guys. They're on the phone again and back in their truck and uh it's madness, it's total madness. And I'm not saying like everyone who's crazy, who's chaotic doesn't make money and everyone who's dialed in does, but that's like you're asking about traits. That's like the probably the number one trait that I've seen. If people are calm, cool, and collected, they're usually making money. If they're going like a crazed ape, it's a pretty good sign that they're not.
Yeah. I want to unpack that for a second because I would agree with you. I would have never thought to phrase it that way my own self, but as you were saying it, that's really true. And you know what I think creates that, and I'm speaking from experience because I can promise you there were days in our early days, especially where I would run around like I was losing my mind. And I would run home like I was losing my mind. And I'd run back in like I was losing my mind. I'd say something like, I'm so busy, I can't believe it. Or, oh my gosh, this is insane. And it was because I had no control over a lot of things because I was out of control. And
Yeah.
not like a way out of control, like I'm gonna lose my mind and like do something stupid. What I mean is I was trying to do everything, which means I couldn't do everything. I couldn't do anything really well. And you have to start to empower and trust people. And in those times, you not only you trust those people, but you start to build systems and processes that you can trust. That then you have people who can operate those systems and operate those processes, and then you can actually be at ease. It's when you feel like you have to see and do and know everything in order to feel comfortable, you ultimately will get to a size where you cannot do that. When we did one or two loans and I met the person and I serviced the loan and I wrote the loan and underwrote the loan and then communicated with them on the loan because there's only one of them. Yeah, it was a piece of cake. I did it all myself. I felt great. But then to get to the time where fast forward now and we have almost 17 people in our office, including myself. I don't do any of those things anymore on a daily basis. And I mean, I get a report at the end of the day and I see, millions of dollars in disbursements and millions of dollars of payments come back in. And I had no idea necessarily which ones those went to. And with that, till I got the report, it's a totally surreal feeling compared to looking backwards, like you just mentioned. And I think the same thing happens with a construction owner. There's a lot going on, man. There's purchases, there's payments, you're trying to get receivables. And if you don't have those systems and processes, construction is one of those businesses that gets big enough with a lot of pieces moving around where you can feel out of control immediately. And it's totally an easy thing to happen without this. So I think you nailed it there. You're right.
Yeah. It's not to go too hard in the paint, but it's also, I think it's worth being honest with yourself. So if you're a construction business owner listening to this or watching this, it's worth being honest with yourself. So telling yourself the truth about where you are. Because I chatted with a guy the other day, small dirt contractor, very small, one, two guys, whatever. He does like, less than $1 million a year. He's completely maxed out. He's like running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And he's not doing $1 million a year. Contrast that with another guy I'm thinking of. I was in their office maybe a year ago or so. He's cool as a cucumber, and his company does $120 million a year. What happened?
Right.
It's like, well, he's not running a skid steer at all, and he's not bidding any projects, and he's not. but he didn't get there just like it's not a total accident, you know? It's that mindset of how do I, you mentioned building systems, uh, trusting people, building trust with people so that they can take things off your plate. Um, it's, I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch. Like for the guy doing 800,000 that doesn't, can't even hardly look straight. Like it's hard. It's hard.
Mhm.
No question about it. But to graduate, it's like that leveling up, like we talked about earlier. Leveling up is it involves bringing in other people, knowing your numbers, having more confidence so that you can be a little more calm in the face of adversity and as you're rolling, you know?
Yeah, and you can help those leaders and people in your business deal with some of the problems that are immediate to them by helping them reflect or understanding where they're coming. If you have a system to have meetings in advance, you can give them guidance ahead of time so it's not a reactive scenario for anyone, including your team.
Right, right.
Yeah. So thinking of the wide range of opportunities someone may come to you, one of the specialties that I know you love and have a passion for is the costing for jobs, bidding, accurate reporting. What are some pieces of advice that you can offer around those topics to clients now that you see or to people listening to this show?
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff, I know you run the gamut, and probably a lot of your audience, your listeners, probably run bigger companies and run bigger projects. Uh, my focus when we're talking about job costing and how that informs your estimating and sales process, and a lot of my focus is on smaller companies that are trying to get bigger. So $1 to $5 million a year. So it's not just like one guy in a backhoe, but it's also you don't have a C-suite, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that's a really tricky situation or like it's a hard phase to be in. And I guess I'll ask too, because like I said, you probably have the gamut, but like do you have
Yeah.
what's your kind of like is there
Well,
plenty 1 to 5 million?
yeah, I was gonna interrupt that. I was gonna tell you, a lot of we have customers that are just approaching a million, and we have customers that might be 30, 40, or 50 million. But both on both high ends, they're very small. The gamut, the 85% of our customers are somewhere between probably 2 and 10 million that are trying to grow to that next phase. So 2 million getting to 4, 4 million getting to 6 or 7. And then there's a big difference between a $2 million company and even a $5 million company in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of people, personnel
Yep.
in it. So it's a really key phase that if managed well, you can, if you, I always say this a lot, but if you have a $2 million company and you have the right discipline and you aren't trying to take money out of the business and you build a good system, you can run from 2 to 10 pretty fast. You can stumble your way to 2 to 5 and take a long time and still be out of control. But once you get to about 5 million, you better have the right infrastructure in place. And because it's just a different business. I like to talk about, and I feel the same way in ours. The business kicks different, man. It bucks, it vibrates. It has a different feel to it. I was just telling my wife this week, I came home on Monday and we had some new folks start last week and this week. And, when we came in here a year ago, there was a lot of empty space and it was cool. We all like, it almost echoed. And then we reorganized for everybody coming into the different sections. And I walked in and there's a lot of new faces all at once. And I was sitting on the couch and my wife could tell, she's like, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, honestly, I was just thinking today, like, there's a whole bunch of people in our office, man. And I don't even know, like, it was like kind of surreal. And it, like I said, it vibrates differently, but also the business, the numbers, the volume of calls, the type of emails, the problems. And you have to get accustomed to that. So our business is very similar to what you're targeting after. Most customers coming to us are in that 2 million and up range because that's where no one can, that's where you have a lot of opportunity to grow. You're getting pretty good, but no one wants to provide you any opportunity to grow from a financial perspective. So that's our sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, then maybe what I'll share is more helpful than I was expecting.
Yeah.
My thought was there's you kind of go closer to that 10, 15 range, but if if you're dealing with a lot of these kind of smaller, if I can use that term, one,
Yeah.
two, $3 million a year companies.
Most of the work, by the way, is done by companies that are 2 to 10 million in size, believe it or not. And
I definitely believe it.
yeah, and the companies that are 10 to 15 million that are trying to grow, they have very similar problems. The difference for them is they might have a $500,000 line of credit. Maybe the bank gave them some money, but the problem is they need 3 million
Right.
to grow between 10 to 20 million. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So maybe the company at 2 million has nothing and can't get money. But the other big problem is when you have some money, but not enough, it's the same problem, you
It's
know?
the
So,
exact same problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody can
Higher risk.
benefit from what I think you're about to say is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to get at.
So it's this is probably the number one thing that I've seen uh across across the industry, across all my experience and flying around and being with different people and lots of conversations. It's that, especially when you're 1, 2, 3 million, but even 5, 6, 7 million, if the owner's heavily involved in how the work gets done, it's kind of like Michael Gerber and the E-Myth. The technician is out there, you're
Yeah.
on the project, and it's like Monday, and then Tuesday you're on the project, and then Wednesday you're on the project, and I'm on the phone with them, and they're like, yeah, well, things kind of blew up. I came out here and got hung up, and you're there. You're the man. You're the person with all the answers. And what I have seen time and time again, and my number one tip for anybody trying to solve for this is you can't manage what you can't measure or what you don't measure. So start measuring it. And one of the things that I like, I don't represent some certain software. I don't represent Excel. Excel didn't employ me. It doesn't matter. The tool doesn't matter nearly so much as the idea that you actually track what you're doing. So it's very simple. It's like track your man hours, track your equipment hours, track your materials on your projects, track your subcontractors, and then maybe another category for other stuff that's kind of specific to projects. If you can do that, you accurately put good data in, and it's coming in every week, every day. You're getting data from the field, and then you have a way to digest it and turn it into something that's useful on the other side for you in the office. You're already so far ahead of the curve for uh, certainly your own operations and informing your estimating department, but also for banks. If you're going to go get a line of credit, you're going to go try to get loans on things. That's helpful, and your own peace of mind. Like that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you rather know? But
Sleep.
they get
You can sleep at night.
so busy putting pipes together, so busy digging trenches and filling them back in again. And it's like at some point you have to graduate, whether you're 1, 2 million, 5 million, maybe even bigger. Uh, you have to graduate to that next level of problems and start delegating more of that stuff to people who can handle it and start tracking this stuff. So obviously that's where I'm aiming to help people and where I have started to help people uh, with my like with my offer. That's what I'm doing. But you don't need me. You don't, all you need is a spreadsheet, you like, or you need some app, use an app. I don't care. I don't care how you get the information. Just make sure it's accurate and then digest it and turn it into something that's that you can make decisions on.
You know how I can tell you that that's exactly a great thing? Because we talk about cash flow all the time. And I've said this before publicly and on our show many, many times. But what I'm about to say is coming from 20 years in the medical device industry, I've been around some of the like fanciest title, high dollar school graduating finance people. And I've walked into those meetings and there's a huge problem. Budgets are blown to pieces. Numbers don't look good. And they would be great at pointing out all those solutions, all those problems. And they'd have zero solutions for what we could do next. I mean, zero. So like you got the best information organized perfectly. You can instantly see what the problem is. And then those same folks just tell you what the problem is. What's different about construction that I thought was amazing to me is when we built that cash flow tool, which we built for ourselves, as you know, to be able to try to analyze this loan for a project, because we felt like, hey, we need to know what the cash flow of this is so we can actually help somebody and figure out how much money do they need? When do they need it? How can we give them a repayment structure that won't kill them, but yet fits into the project? You can't give too much money and you don't want to give too little money. So we built this cash flow tool, which now we launch out to the world, everyone uses it and it's free for anyone. But what we learned, the most important thing, and what was the catalyst to putting it on our website and saying, everyone just use it, download it, is when we put that information together in such a simple way for them to be able to see. And I showed a construction contractor, hey, here's your project from a week by week cash flow perspective. Even if it's the same project that they've bid 100 times, they've done and executed that project 100 times. And sometimes that they're like, hey, that project ran smooth this time with this customer. This time, I got the same margin, same bid. This one ran terrible. When I show them what the differences are and like why you spend this much versus that, they instantly knew how to address it. Like when you say, oh, the problem is you have this huge equipment cost and it's okay, but when you rent it for your terms with your supplier, if you could just extend those to 45-day terms instead of 30, or you need to order this sooner, or it's this deposit that you have, or yet it's subcontractor versus direct labor, they would instantly be like, oh, you know what? Hang on. I'm going to get the subcontractor crew on that because I can pay them when paid, or I can pay them every 2 weeks at least instead of and I'll send my other crew, my direct crew, I'm going to send them to this other job. Oh, you know what? I'm using that equipment lender, or I'm using that equipment supplier because they were giving me a lower price. I was focused on price, but now that I see that, I'm just going to order from my other supplier B. I'm going to pay the extra 5% or so and it's not save that money, but it'll keep me from having to invest $200,000 more into this project. We work the numbers that way. Come back a day later, we work the numbers and the math works perfect. Project goes perfect. So I was like, whoa, like now you lay the information out in just a clear, concise way that someone can actually see and then execute decisions off of. So I'm like, all right, you have this amazing construction contractor now who can actually solve problems. So what is the problem? They just didn't know the problem exists. So let's show them what the problem is, and then they can solve it. And it was remarkable. It was like such an epiphany to me that's why I started talking about this so much, a lot of reason, because I was like, you know what? It's not that someone is dumb or they don't know. It's just they don't know how to put the information in a manner that you can see, which I totally relate to. Because believe it or not, I'm not a finance background person. I can understand information when it's put in front of me and I can then make decisions off of it and I can go fix it. But if you threw the problem on the table in different pieces, I'm not necessarily like going to put it together perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I think what you just said there is so true, because when you can see it and it's organized in the terms of man hours and what's happening in real time, you can make decisions. It's when the absence of information becomes such a struggle.
Yeah. And you have to make decisions either way. You're gonna make the decisions either way. So it's like, one, let's find the information. Let's get it in, I keep using the term digestible. Let's get it in a way that makes sense. Let's put the info in a way that makes sense. And then you can make decisions from there. Rather than what you and I see all the time, which is people are making decisions. And many times they're the right decision because gut is good and experience is the best teacher and all this stuff. Sometimes it's the wrong decision and they don't know why. And to me, that's like the biggest glaring hole. And that's what makes it feel like such a fire that you're fighting all the time, is because you don't know. It's like if you knew that these rental rates from this supplier are way nastier to your cash flow, well then good. Like that's solvable. And I
Right.
completely agree with you. Like the industry, I have so much respect. Like 10 years ago, I thought I was just some hot shot and could like, why don't you just fix all these problems, guys? You guys are, it's not, that's not it. That's not it at all. There's actually, it's like, again and again, I'm blown away by the people who are listening to this. It's like people who are super smart, super hardworking, and caring people. They just need the info. And like, if I can help, great. If you can help your cash flow tool, go download the cash flow tool. That thing is sweet. Like, use it.
Yeah, get the info in front of you and go. You know, like, so think about this, Ben. So you've been around a lot of different executives, different C-level suites. You've seen some mistakes, you've seen others. You've seen the crazy-eyed, wild leader in the business that seems like they're panicking and freaking out. And then you've seen the calm, cool, and chill CEO. What do you think, what do you think is the one thing that can help someone graduate from craziness to calm, cool, and collected where things are all moving, right? Because I have a belief that probably everybody that's calm, cool, and collected at one point was probably crazy-eyed. So there's something that some transition and some don't, but you're always starting somewhere, probably in the crazy land.
Yeah. It's a decision. It's a
Mm.
decision. Time and time again, I've been in this conversation with people. Many times I'm not working with them. Every once in a while I am working with them. It doesn't matter. It's like the point of decision where people decide, I'm done being this guy. I'm done working on these projects. I'm willing to embrace the risks of delegation, of letting other people take the reins on some things. I don't need to be the guy who's involved in everything. We're going to start getting the team more involved. And it's like a commitment, decision to get get a handle on the problem. And that's like once somebody makes that decision, again, back to the industry, like the people in this industry are so they're just strong people, man. Strong people, and that's what drives people to work 90 hours a week and work themselves to the bone, sometimes to the grave uh for their company.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's like that at some point that's got to be turned, you got to like redirect that to solve different problems. Instead of solving some utility project problem, let's solve the problem of the team. Let's solve a problem of cash. And so to it's that decision or that commitment. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna go get a handle on this.
And they are resilient. You're right. There's so much resilience in this industry. It's amazing. I think what's important for people to know, as you say, decision too, that not making a decision is a decision as well. And
Mm.
like avoiding the fact that you're like, well, I just can't decide. I'll wait till tomorrow. That's a choice, man. And that has its own set of consequences too. And so I think like forcing a decision sometimes, and I'm not saying rush to a decision, but I mean force the fact that you need to make a decision that I'm gonna or I'm not gonna make this happen in a manner that'll be more organized so you're not crazy is really a key thing to do. And if you choose not to make a decision, like you said, a decision is the difference. Well, if you choose not to make a decision, that is a decision in itself.
I'm sure you've heard it said the best decision is the right decision. The second best decision is the wrong decision. The worst decision is no decision.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
true. So what's next for you, Ben? What is your next 2 to 5 year goals and aspirations look like? You're starting a new endeavor and you got a plan. What's it look like?
So we've been talking about job costing, how that informs estimating and helping people get from uh, where they're going crazy to a little more calm and making more money. Right now, my mission and plan is I want to I ultimately want to help operationalize this stuff. So I'm not looking to go create the next whiz bang thing or whatever. And like I want to just give people tools and resources and people that can help them get to the next level. There is one thing I've learned, Scott, is like I live in Washington State, okay? I live in one county in Washington State. In fact, I live in a town of like 20,000 people in this county in Washington State. That's a very, very small sample size, but it was my sample size for my whole life until the last 5 or 6 years, as I've gotten out more and more and seen more and more people. The world is huge. It's huge. there's hundreds of thousands of companies that fit the profile that we're talking about. It's young people, it's people trying to get their own thing going. And so to me, uh, I'm not looking to be Mayor McSmarty Pants or guy that knows everything. I just want to help get them from where they're at to kind of graduating to that next level of business problems. So from the guy who's in the field or the gal who's in the field working all the time to where they're running a company that's making money and they have a team in place and they know their numbers so that they can be a little more calm and answer their phone. That's really my mission. So what I mean by operationalize that, and I don't know if this takes 2 years, 5 years, or 6 months. I don't know, but I want to create tools. I want to get. I have a awesome network of people around me who deal in everything from finance and can are spreadsheet whizzes to software whizzes to everything in between. I want to help package those up and be able to apply those to companies so that they can win. Like if you do these things, you're gonna win. So that's my vision for what's next.
I love that. Give them the playbook, execute it, and this is what you can have as an outcome.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to move to one of my new favorite sections here. It's called our little rapid fire questions. All right. These are dirt world related. These will be easy for you. We'll see. But I'm going to shoot you off the question. You give us the first answer that comes to your mind. All right.
All right.
What's your favorite construction utility, vehicle, or tool?
Easy excavator, man.
What's your favorite on-site or on-the-job experience?
About a year ago, I got delayed on a flight. Uh, I was trying to get back from Philly. I ended up routing through Charlotte and staying a night. And I went out to Wayne Brothers. So shout out to Wayne Brothers. And I went and toured their project and saw this huge project they were doing. Bunch of equipment moving around. But I got to meet maybe like 6 or 8 of their people like working on the job. And that was such a cool experience because I'd never been on a Wayne Brothers project before, but every one of the people I met was just awesome. Like they're just cool people who were
Yeah.
happy I was there, happy to show me around. We got in the little UTV, it drove all over. Uh, somebody, yeah, it's just like it was just so cool to be able to swing in and be on a delayed flight layover and pop over and see them and they welcomed me, and they were just good people, good to go.
I
That
love it.
that one probably stands out as one of my favorite projects because uh, it was just an awesome experience. So nice job, Wayne Brothers, but also uh, just a nod to the dirt world in general.
Yeah, a construction site's full of great people. I mean, if you've never spent any time on one, I mean, you'll find out quick when you do. All right, next question. Biggest way you think you've impacted the world of construction?
I don't know if this is true, but I hope I hope that I've helped people ask different questions. We talked about uh, the crazed owner and then the calm, cool, and collected owner, let's say. And if I've done my job, whether it's stuff I post on the internet or conversations I'm in, it's that they it's that they ask different questions rather than asking, why is this so hard? They're asking, how can I do better? And then finding the answers. So yeah, I think if asking better questions.
Yeah, getting people from crazed to calm and collected. If you've done that for one person, that's got to be high on the list, no doubt. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
I like to run. Uh, yeah, I like running.
Yeah. And you're a family man, a very devoted dad. What legacy do you want to ensure you leave for your children?
I think if I can leave them one practical thing or one practical thing that my kids learned from me, it's that I was curious and asked questions and didn't think I was something that I wasn't. And if I see my kids are doing that and they're asking questions, they're humble enough to be ignorant and wanting to know, like want to learn. If I've done that, then I think I've done my job.
I agree with that. As a dad, I would say I could second that notion very much so. Well, Ben, this has been awesome, man. I'm so glad you came on and talked this through with us. I appreciate you answering all these questions. I'm excited for you to get started on your new venture. I'm looking forward to being able to guide people to you. I'm hoping people can find you and come from here. I know for a fact that you will be very helpful to whoever you work with in whatever capacity that you can guide them and give them and share your wisdom, especially with your connections and especially with your knowledge. So I encourage people to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
You and I are both big LinkedIn guys. I've been that's been a huge spot for me. Like I put stuff out on LinkedIn all the time. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, definitely send me a connect request. And feel free to shoot me a DM on LinkedIn. I do some Instagram stuff too, but that's not my bread and butter. I'm a LinkedIn guy, so feel free to hit me up there.
Nice. And any of your contact information, everything else, we'll put here in the show notes so everybody can follow along and grab on and catch up with you. And Ben, I just want to say thanks, man. I'm a big fan. I'm going to help you in any way possible, as you know. And so we'll be talking just as much as we always do. But I'm glad and grateful that you came on the episode here and shared all this wonderful knowledge. So thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah, likewise. And if I can just say too, Scott, I am very appreciative of not just this opportunity and this chat we've had and the being on the podcast, but your friendship the last several years. I've very much appreciated it, and I've learned maybe more than you think I have from you and your examples. So please keep it up.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And the feeling's mutual. And I promise you, when I've had some tough spots, particularly a couple years ago, I called you, you were right there, and I won't forget that. And it goes both ways, man. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. If you've enjoyed this show episode, gotten any value at all out of it, which I'm certain you have, please go ahead and click subscribe on our YouTube channel if you're watching there, or on any of your podcasts. If you're listening, please click subscribe, share the show, let your friends know. And everyone, we'll catch you next time. Have a great day and God bless you.